Hello guys and welcome to Real Reds Talk. On today's show I'm going to be taking a closer look at some young players from around Europe and players who United I think should be looking at along with the ones we already have on our list. It's basically going to be a scouting special, giving you guys the profile, the strengths, the weaknesses, all the above basically from their respective positions where they play. I put a story out before on our Instagram asking you guys to give me some players who you think I should take a look at in depth, and that's exactly what you've done. So the players we are going to go with is Alessandro Bastoni from Inter Milan, who we've been linked with recently for around 50 million. Tottenham linked with him as well. That was from Demartio, I think, with them reports. We're looking at Ibrahim Sangare from PSV, and we're actually taking a look at his teammate as well, Cody Gakpo, a young, exciting winger. So let's start off with Bastoni, guys. Before I get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of this kind of content. And yeah, like the video if you're feeling super generous as well. We'd really appreciate that. Yeah, let's get into the show. So, Alessandro Bastoni, if people don't know much about him, is a highly rated 23-year-old Italian centre-back who plays for Inter Milan, a regular in the first team for them. He originally came from Atlanta, from like the setup there, the youth setup. Then Inter signed him for 30 million and then ended up loaning him back, I think, to Parma and Atlanta again before he kind of made his mainstay in Inter Milan's team under Conte. He's made 11 appearances so far for his national team, and the Italians are hoping he can be the next big centre-back for them. They can fill that hole, basically, with Chiellini and Bonucci kind of on the way out, 35, 36. But yeah, it's a bit of added pressure for Bastoni because you think of the long line of centre-backs that have come through with Italy. You go back to Baresi, Maldini, Cannavaro, Nesta, all these guys are absolute legends. And then you've got guys even like Bonucci and Chiellini, who you remember when Mourinho was like, they should be in Harvard teaching how to defend. Absolute class guys, but obviously they're coming to the back end of the career, and Bastoni's kind of looked as that guy to come through and be the next kind of big thing. So a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He can play across the back three in a number of positions. He's left-footed. He's great at dealing with counter-attacks as well as starting them with his range of passing. And I'd say he's a proper example of a modern-day defender, what you want from a modern-day defender, should I say. So I actually think he's probably going to, with all the Italian links at Tottenham, with Conte there now, and the director as well. I can't remember the geezer's name, but they're both Italian. I think they're going to have links there. Conte's worked with him before. He's playing a back five there. I think Bastoni would be a good signing for them, and I think he's got about 150 million to spend as well. So it's more likely for Bastoni to go there. But I like him as a player, and this is why we're doing a scout report on him. He invites pressure from the opposition to play into gaps, typical Conte style, and he isn't rapid, but he certainly isn't slow either by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, that's the profile on Bastoni done. Let's take a closer look at his stats. So appearances, 31 games played, 8 clean sheets, 1 goal. Aerial duels, 1.4, 62%. Ground duels, 2.7, 59%. Interceptions, 1.1. Tackles per game, 1.4. Errors leading to goal, 0. Clearances per game, 1.8. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare it to another centre-back in the Premier League in a second. Let's just have a look at his on-the-ball kind of things. So pass accuracy is 50.5, that's 90%. Now, I want to break this down into own half and opposition half because it's important to see how effective they are. Because anyone can say they've got 95 passing accuracy, but if it's just sideways passing in your own half, then what does that matter? You're not progressing the ball, so it's irrelevant. So yeah, so in own half it's 93% and opposition half 81%. Relatively decent. Possession lost 8 times per game. Touches per game 67.8. So let's add a bit of perspective to that, guys. And let's have a look at a centre back who's done, had a brilliant season at Chelsea. Just moved to Real Madrid, and that is Tony Rudiger, of course. So he's played 34 games, 14 clean sheets, 3 goals. Aerial duels 1.6, so 74%. Ground duels 1.9, 52%. Interceptions 0.8. Tackles per game 1.4. Clearances per game 2.6. Errors leading to goal 1. Pass accuracy 64.7, 88%. Own half 91% and opposition half 83%. So slightly better in the opposition half of Rudiger. He is quite dangerous for Chelsea, I'll give him that. Possession lost 10.3 times and touches per game 84.1. So Bastoni's better at ground duels, interceptions, 1v1, and has a better ball playing ability if you look at the stats. Rudiger seems to be better, physically and aerial. Like, is that side of the game. With Rudiger, he clears the ball quite a lot. He's quite, not erratic, I don't know what the word is. He's aggressive. He's an aggressive centre-back. He's just, everything's kind of 100%, 110%. So physically, he's better in that aspect. And he's got more clean sheets. But Chelsea, as a defensive side, collectively, they're really, really good. One of the best in Europe. So it's one of them with clean sheets. Bastoni, in my opinion, would be a great option if we can't get Timber or Paul Torres. He's young enough to be developed by a decent coach like Ten Hag. Got a good physical stature and, really good at playing out from the backs. I think Bastoni would be a good shout. Thank you for sending him in. If I was to rate it, let's do a rating. If I was to rate it, what are the odds of him coming to Manchester United? I'd probably say very low, but I do think we should be having a look at him. I'd probably be looking at, actually, when I think about it, I'd probably take Bastoni over Torres. But Timber would be my main priority. So if we can't get Timber, go and have a look at Bastoni. Throw 50 million at him. See what they say. You know what I mean? So the next player, guys, I'm going to look at is that's Bastoni finished. I'm going to look at Cody Gakpo, 23 years old, a Dutch winger who plays for PSV Eindhoven. Come up through the PSV academy, has developed nicely into being a regular starter for him. This year he's had 12 goals and 13 assists, so 25 goal involvements in 27 games. A decent return. One of the most exciting wingers in the Eredivisie at the moment. He also captains the side as well when Van Ginkel isn't fit or isn't playing. He's played a handful of games for the national team, so a young prospect who seems to be getting better and better. He could play centre forward and wing, so similar to Darwin Núñez in that sense, but I think Núñez is more stronger in the striker position, but can play wing as well, whereas Gakpo's the opposite, stronger in the wing position, but can play striker. 6'2", lightning quick, however his physicality can be an issue, and this was highlighted in the Leicester game when they played, I think it was Europa League Conference, and James Justin and who was the other guy? Ricardo Pereira was just throwing him off the ball, bullying him in terms of strength. So that's something he may have to work on, that kind of upper body strength, especially in the Premier League because we know how physical it is there. But yeah, still a talent that can be worked with. And, our new gaffer, Eric Ten Bag, as me and Adam like to call him, obviously being a manager of Ajax, knows him very well and will probably know how to use him if he was to bring him into the fold. Let's take a look at some of the stats. As I mentioned before, 27 appearances, 12 goals and 13 assists, which is really good. Big chances created, 11. Key passes per game, 2.6. Accurate per game, 18.7, so 77%. Successful dribbles, 2.9, 59%. I thought that'd be a little bit higher, to be fair, but it's not a bad return. It's not, it's not too bad. He wins over half of his dribbles. Possession lost, 15.8. As a winger, you're going to naturally lose it more, being more risky. Was fouled 1.2 times. I'd love to see what Grealish is, or when Hazard was in his prime, because they're the two guys I instantly think of who get snapped all the time. Grealish is like the main one, so I should have brought that stat up for this. I have got a comparison, but we'll get into that in a second. And touches per game, 48. PSV are a counter-attacking team, so I was thinking of players to do a comparison with in terms of stats, and I just thought, you know what, I'll go with Marcus Rashford. I know he's had a terrible season, but let's just compare their seasons this year. So, appearances for Rashford, 25, 4 goals, 2 assists, shocking return. Big chances created, 3. Key passes per game, 0.4. Accurate per game, 12, so shocking start for him. I know people talk about stats sometimes, they don't tell a full narrative or whatever, blah, blah, blah. We know how bad of a season Rashford's had. He got nominated our worst player of the year for Real Reds, so that was even worse than Maguire, and that's saying something. How far he fell off is a minefield. No one knows what's going on with him, but, he's doing a lot of training at the moment behind closed doors, so hopefully he can come, rise back to the top where he belongs. So yeah, I've been through the big chances created, key passes and accurate per game. Successful dribbles, 0.9, 42%. So that's even lower. That's almost 20% lower than Gakpo's. Possession lost 9 times, which I thought would be higher because Rashford's football intelligence is non-existent and he seems to give the ball away all the time or run into blind alleys. He was fouled 0.7 times, so less than Gakpo as well. Touches per game 25.6, so not heavily involved in the games either. Now you can see he's probably started less than Gakpo. He's not been as important as a player as Gakpo is for them, so that can kind of come into the narrative. But you can see, you know, Gakpo's better in pretty much every department this season. And as I said before, I know it's been really tough for Rashford, but I still think Cody's stats are very impressive. And I appreciate that Eredivisie is a completely different competition to the Prem in terms of competition. But if you look at the likes of Eriksen, Van Persie, Suarez, who have gone from the Eredivisie to the Prem and done really well, you know, you can take that as a positive. Other people will throw shit back at me like Tadic or Depay or people like that where it didn't necessarily work out. But there's only one way to see, and sometimes you just have to risk it. We did it with Bruno Fernandes. I know he had a shit sort of 6 months last season towards the back end. But when we first initially signed him, he was like a bullet out of a gun. He just rose to the top straight away. And the stats he was doing in Portugal translated to the Premier League. So, it'd be interesting. I think it'd be risky signing, but what have we got to lose at the moment? If you sign him for £30 million, what other winger are you going to go sign out there who are guaranteed to hit the ground running? There isn't one out there, really. So, guys, the last guy I'm going to talk about is actually Cody Gakpo's teammate, and that is Ibrahim Sangare. I hope I didn't pronounce that wrong. 24 years old, 6'3", Ivory Coast international midfielder who plays for Eindhoven. Bought from Toulouse in the French league for a relatively cheap price due to Toulouse being relegated that season. So they managed to get hold of him for about €7 million, which is a bit of a steal. And he's been consistent for him, especially this season. He's got insane strength, defensive abilities. He's like, if you're describing a 6, he's a destroyer. He's like a Kante, but not as good on the ball. But he is developing in them areas. He is slowly getting better and better, more progressive, and maybe with even better coaching, you know, them stats can rise, as we're going to get into in a moment. He actually got man of the match in the cup final against Ajax. Played really well, formed a great partnership with Gutierrez, their other midfielder, in the heart of that midfield, which gave him a solid platform to perform. He could be the key to unlock people like De Jong and Bruno and Donny and Scott and Fred, who are all 8s, let's be honest. The signing of no 6s, which I'm sure Sam will remind you of every time we do a show, we're not signing one, and it just doesn't make sense to me at all, because I think you're going to bring De Jong in. What midfield are you going to play if you bring De Jong in? Are you going to play De Jong, Donny and Bruno? Like, there's not enough defensive discipline in there for me. I think you get cut through. I think you'd be good on the ball and you probably have more possession. But on transitions and stuff like that, I don't think there's enough defensive discipline there. There's not a guy who's taking it off the back four and, you know, progressing play. I see Sangare being one of them guys who would really bring balance if you're going to play De Jong and Donny or De Jong and Bruno or whoever, whatever combination you can go with. His price tag's rumoured to be around £30 million, which isn't too bad. And yeah, it's a player that Ten Hag knows, and he's a decent price. Is this someone we should be looking at? Well, let me take you through his stats. I've got another comparison here for you, and then you guys can make your own mind up. So, this is Sangare. Appearances 29, goals 3, assists 2. Okay, touches per game 89.3, so relatively heavily involved. Big chances created 4, which isn't bad considering he's more of a, you know, a defensive midfielder. Key passes per game 0.8. That could be slightly higher. Accurate passes per game 86%. Own half 89%, and opposition half 83%. About average. Possession loss 13.3 times. But then you take it to the defensive side of things. Interceptions per game 2.6. Tackles per game 3.3. Dribbles passed per game 1. Total duels won 7.4, so 63%, so well above half. Fouls per game 1.2 and 4 yellow cards, so he's not overly aggressive. You compare that to the likes of Neves. I think Neves had about 9 yellow cards. So yeah, he's measured in his tackles. The one player I wanted to compare him to was, of course, Pastor Fred for us. This season he's had 28 appearances, 4 goals, 4 assists. Touches per game 61.4, so a lot less involved than Sangare. Big chances created, the same. 4 key passes per game, 1. Accurate per game, similar to Sangare again, 84s, 86, 83, all percentages on average, and then possession lost 10.8, so he loses it more, which again isn't a surprise with Fred, let's be honest. Interceptions per game, now it surprised me a little bit because I thought Fred would be on a similar level. I was of the opinion he would be, but looking at these, Sangare looks significantly better. So Fred's interceptions per game, 1.1. Tackles per game, 2.2. Dribbled pass per game, 2.0. That doesn't surprise me. Total duels won, 4.8, so less than 50% for Fred, which he's good at breaking up play and intercepting, but we always say, like, when he wins it, he just gives it straight back. That is Fred all over. He's like a cat chasing his own tail. Fouls per game, 1.1, and 5 yellow cards, so similar in that aspect. But offensively and in possession, Fred is slightly better, but he does play higher up the pitch, especially when Rangnick came in. He was more of that floating 8. So, yeah, in that aspect, he is better, definitely. But then the defensive side, Sangare's a lot better, like far better, and would bring more of a solid platform. You look at the interceptions, tackles, dribble past, everything like that, he's a lot more solid there. Which, again, goes back to the thing I was alluding to about the balance in midfield. Sangare would bring that, and he would do the dirty side of the game and have no issue with it at all. Does he have enough quality on the ball to be a Manchester United player? Again, it's a similar thing with Gakpo. You won't know until you sign the guy. Sometimes you have to take risks in transfers. That's just how transfers work. You're never guaranteed. I think Sam threw a statistic the other day saying 30% or 40% of transfers work out of all of them. So this happens. For his price tag, I think it's worth maybe having a look at him, because, like I said, we're not linked with any DMs at all. So if he's available for a decent price and we can bring him in and then I can work with him, I'll pose the question to you lot again. What do you guys think? Sangare, would you take him at United? Would you go pay the 30 million for him now? Maybe in instalments, 15 mil or 10 mil a year. You think if we sell Dean Henderson or someone like that, that money alone could go pay for someone like that, and that could be a world of a difference in that midfield and really transform it. So you've got each position's got, the specialist where they should be. That's how it should be. You shouldn't be all this talk about Timber playing as a DM or Lindelof playing as a DM. You can't be taking guys out of positions where we need anyway and then playing them there for the simple fact that they can do a job there, because we've had players who can do a job there for the past 2-3 years. Let's get a specialist in there. Let's get a guy who, grass for the team, would love United, because he's got, with all due respect to PSV, he's going from PSV to Manchester United. It's a big step up. So the respect will be there, the hunger will be there, the price tag's there. I think it's nailed on that we should, at least have a look at him, speak to him, scout him properly. I'm not even sure if we scouted him, but this is when we talk about gems around Europe. These are the type of guys that I'm on about. Little gems that, people, they're respected as players, but they're not the big names, so big clubs don't go in for him. And we've seen with the likes of Luis Diaz at Liverpool, for example, who have hit the ground running, and there wasn't loads of people talking about him. Look, don't get it twisted. There wasn't loads of people saying, go get him, he's your guy. Liverpool was kind of like quick business, January, boom, done. Brought him in, hit the ground running, been phenomenal ever since. We need to start looking at these kind of guys, 30, 40, 50 million price range. Go get them. If they don't work out, then at least you can say, well, we changed up our recruitment strategy. It didn't work. We're going to have to go down a different path, but at least try 1 or 2. Do you know what I mean? I think it's well worth it. So, yeah, that is it, guys. Thank you for watching. It's been a fun one. A lot of work goes into these scouting reports, so we appreciate all the viewers and all you guys taking time out your day to comment, send us DMs, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we really appreciate that. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have the time. We're trying to push to 200 subs at the moment, so that would be really great. And check us out on socials. We're absolutely everywhere. When I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. Just type Real Reds Talking and you should be able to find us.